Good morning to all my accidental homeschoolers out there. I just love that name, accidental homeschooler. I'm Sam Sorbo, the host here, and for the next few moments, we're going to talk about homeschooling and um, how you can succeed
Good morning
where
to
you never
all my
thought that
accidental
you would be asked to even participate. I am the author of They're Your Kids, an inspirational journey from self-doubter to homeschool advocate, because I was a self-doubter just like you probably, and now I'm a homeschool advocate because it is the best thing ever. We're going to talk today about parental needs because let's face it, the reason that you are anxious is because you feel like you don't know what you're doing. And nobody likes to feel like they don't know what they're doing. In fact, from school, we've been conditioned to want to feel like we are earning that gold star, to want to feel like we are accomplishing something and that there's somebody standing next to us saying, "Atta girl" or "Atta boy, way to go, keep it up," all that good stuff. So we're conditioned that way. And so when we're thrown into a situation where we feel like we're being deprived, we feel like our children are being deprived, and then add to that the whole scare of the coronavirus and that people are scared because um, uh, we are convinced, rightly or wrongly, and I'm not weighing in on that, but we're convinced that this is going to go, you know, bonkers any day now. That it's just going to blow up in our faces, and we're really going to be in a war zone. Um, and we are fighting uh, an invisible enemy, and that's terribly disconcerting. And so, yeah, we all find ourselves a little bit, well, not all of us. I talk to homeschoolers, and they're like, "Yeah, pretty much business as usual these days, although we're not going out at all, right?" So for us homeschoolers, we've been doing this at home this whole time, but there are plenty of people out there who haven't been doing it this way for a very long time. And so I want to talk to you today about getting your needs met. Let's talk about what your needs are. And so I want to share with you an email that I got that I was thrilled to get. And maybe this will help you. Maybe this will describe you. This is from a mother of 3 girls. She says that her oldest, Olivia, is in kindergarten. And then she has 2 younger girls. And she used to be a teacher, but she has stayed home ever since her oldest was born. And while she has really enjoyed this week and a half from with her daughter being home from school, um, she hasn't been super scheduled, but she's practiced reading, writing, and math. I mean, she's a kindergartner. You shouldn't be super scheduled. Let's please. I don't understand why we need kindergarten. I know we don't need preschool. I don't quite understand the push for kindergarten. I mean, let's face it. You raise your child to the age of 5 or 6. You teach them how to tie their shoes, how to use their fork and knife, hopefully, how to sit at a dinner table, maybe even how to set the table. Like you're the primary teacher. And then all of a sudden, when they turn some arbitrary age, 5 or 6, right? In September of that year, boom, you're out of a job. Like you're just not going to get it done. You're all of a sudden you're incapable. We need to bring in the professionals to teach your child now. I don't understand that. And not only that, we need to bring in basically strangers that you don't know, but trust the government. The government has vetted them and they're excellent at their jobs. No, maybe they got C's going through teacher credential school. You don't know. Okay. Enough about that. This woman is a trained teacher. So in theory, and she taught the younger grades. So in theory, she would be like ideal for the position of a homeschool parent, right? But strangely enough, many of the teachers who I meet feel the least capable of home educating their children because they've been the most indoctrinated by a system that tells us how incapable we are. It's really, I mean, it's an amazing paradigm. It's amazing paradox that we're in fact. Okay. So she says she hasn't been super schooled, but she really enjoyed the work of practicing reading, writing, and math with her with her daughter. And she also feels like it looks 10 times better than the entire year of kindergarten so far. Like they've made like leaps and bounds. Well, yeah, when it's one-on-one interaction with the teacher, yeah, great things can happen. Okay. She says she's watched all my YouTube videos, so thank you for that. Really appreciate that. She's really rethinking her choice to homeschool or not. She says rethink because she and her husband hadn't considered it when they were getting ready for her daughter to enter kindergarten. Well, no, because we're conditioned to think, oh, kindergarten age, time to go to school, time for kindergarten. In fact, we put on Nemo, Finding Nemo, the other night. And like the first scene where we see Nemo, he's all excited to go to school. And it's really cute, but I can't help because I'm so deep in this now. I can't help my knee-jerk reaction. Oh no, don't send Nemo to school. I know, fish go to school. That's what they do. Okay, enough with the jokes. She says she feels more empowered to do homeschooling, but she just can't decide to do it. She doesn't know why. She just can't make that leap. She said it's hard to explain. She said my video information is useful, but she thinks maybe she's conditioned to think that she needs to go to school. I think she means her daughter, that her daughter needs to go to school. She didn't have any issues with the teacher. No, the teachers tend to be really nice. Most of them are great people. They're wonderful people. They really have the kids' best interests at heart. They're working in a broken system. They're working in a system that doesn't serve the teacher, serves the teacher maybe better than it serves the child, but not by much, okay? All right. She had no issues with any of the curriculum that the little girl was bringing home. Of course, she has no idea if she had any issues with the curriculum in the classroom because we're not privy to what goes on in the classrooms. She says her daughter loves school. She loves to complete tasks correctly. Oh yeah. Don't we all? I started today talking about that. We're all looking for that check mark, that rubber stamp, that good job, right? And of course the little girl loves that. Well, we all love that. And then we go to school, and then the school structure utilizes that sort of that desire that we already have and conditions us to desire it more. Okay. And she says she's the same way, of course. She says we're social people. They've also discussed with her husband, they've discussed the social aspect of homeschooling. She says we have our friends, but do the kids miss any social aspect when they are homeschooled? And then she says, that may be a ridiculous question. It is, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. She says, I could go on forever. I guess I would love some advice. I know I am capable of homeschooling, so why is there still that trepidation? And she asks for any advice. There is trepidation because you have been brainwashed by the system to think that you're inadequate and you want to serve your child. Oh, you want to serve your child. You want the best for your child. And if the system says that college is the very best you can do, by gosh darn it, you want college for your child, right? But it's not true. It's not true. It's a lie. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to tell you that you've been lied to by a bureaucracy, not necessarily by individuals who meant to do you harm. You've been lied to by individuals who meant what was good for you. Your parents probably told you had to go to college. They just wanted what was good for you. They just were parroting what they'd been told by the experts. Look at where our experts have gotten us. Don't trust the experts over your own intuition and your own inclinations. Your inclination is to serve your daughter personally. Your inclination is to have her home where you can supervise and you can enjoy what you witness happening in her as she discovers the world around her. That's your inclination. Don't deny that. Don't override that. There's a fantastic book called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. I haven't seen it in years. I remember it so vividly. And he tells the story. It's a horrible story about a girl um, who's on her way home. This is right at the beginning of the book, and she I think is like in the introduction basically. And she's on her way home. She's got a couple of bags of groceries, and she lives in a 3-story walk up in the city. And she gets to the door of the building, and the door is slightly ajar, which is odd because typically it's locked. And she's gotten her keys out, but she didn't need to unlock the door. And she's like, oh, that's odd. And she goes into the building, and she's walking up the stairs, and there's a guy in the stairwell. And he says, oh, he's so nice. He says, oh, let me help you with those groceries. Let me help you. And so, she doesn't want to be rude. So she gives him a bag of groceries. She carries the other. And he walks her to her apartment door. And she says, okay, I'll take it from here. And he says, no, I wouldn't be a gentleman if I didn't complete the job. I'll just walk it into your kitchen for you. Don't worry, I'm not going to stay. And she thinks, well, I really shouldn't be rude. So she opens the door and lets him into her apartment. And a violent act ensues. And she is stuck in her bedroom, and he closes the window, and he goes to the kitchen to get a drink of water, which all of a sudden, finally, her instincts kick in. This is what he calls the gift of fear. Her instincts kick in, and she says, wow, something in her knew that he wasn't coming back with a glass of water. In fact, no, he was perusing her knife drawer. At which point, she snuck out of bed, wrapped a sheet around her, and got past him out into the hall and got her neighbors to help her. But it wasn't until that moment where she said, wait, this is wrong. I'm too much afraid. After a violent act occurred, I don't need to give you the details. You understand what I'm saying. The gift of fear finally got a hold of her, and she was ready to act. I don't know what to do for this person who wrote in to me, and thank you so much for the email. I don't know what I can say for you to understand the fear that you ought to feel at sending your child into an institution full of other children and unknown adults and a system that is broken. Does that make sense? After the two girls were beaten to death, after the one girl was beaten to death by two of her peers, 15-year-olds, the superintendent of schools for, I believe it was Maryland, came out and said, our schools are safe. I'm here to tell you our schools are not safe. I don't care what they say. They're wrong. I don't care if they believe it or they don't believe it. I don't need to cast aspersions. I'm just saying they're wrong. Now, if the bar is that low, it really takes very little to step over it and become the homeschool parent that you dream that your child would have, right? What would be the best possible scenario for your child? To have a dedicated tutor one-on-one every day, right? I mean, come on, let's face it. That would be like the best possible scenario. In fact, the wealthy people in former centuries would hire tutors to come and live in their house and tutor their children so that their children would be properly educated, right? Well, think about that. You could do that. You could serve that role for your child. And you don't even have to know everything. And that's really what I'm here to try to tell you. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be dedicated enough to show them how to learn the things that they need to know. You don't have to have the answers. And in fact, if you are man enough to admit that you don't have an answer, your child respects you even more. If you're woman enough to admit that you need to go look up the answer, and so you go look up the answer, your child respects you more. And you teach the child how learning happens. If I don't know something, my kids know, I'm going to go find out. We actually had a conversation this morning because we have a cousin. He's actually the son of my children's cousin. And I said, he's your cousin once removed. And they're like, what? That's not right. He's my second cousin. And I said, you know what? I can never keep this straight. And I looked it up right in front of them. And I said, ha, I was right. Because I do like being right. And I said, he's actually your cousin once removed. So the son or daughter of your cousin is your cousin once removed. Your second cousin is, I can't remember. So I didn't actually learn it. I only learned half of it. But my point is you can go learn things for your children. And then you can tailor their learning to exactly what they need. So today I've gotten a little bit off track. We're going to talk about structure. I talked about conviction, and then I'll get into reassurance. So the conviction is, we just went over it. What is it that's going to convict you? Can I tell you that children who are homeschooled on average, by and large, are much better socialized than children who spend the entire day in a small enclave of people who are exactly their age? What can they learn from other kids their own age? But like bad stuff. I mean, seriously, apply a little logic. It doesn't take a lot, just a little bit of logic. Also, I want to point out that I'm doing a panel for Heritage Foundation today at noon. They do have a Facebook link as well. If you go to my Facebook page, the official Sam Sorbo Facebook page, I've posted it there a couple times. So you should be able to find it. And it will be live. And there's an online link too. If you don't want to watch in Facebook, you can go to the online link. And I think we'll also be taking live questions, if I remember correctly. But it's a whole panel of us talking about how everybody's a homeschooler now, which, look, hey, you've been given a great opportunity to try it. Give it a test drive before you buy it, right? In fact, that's what I did when I started homeschooling. I test drove it for a month in the summer. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can sort of get behind this. Like, I'm running the show and the kids answer to me. And actually, that's not a bad thing. And I'm not dealing with sort of outside influences over which I have no control, right? And I don't have to deal with that pesky mom who was such a jerk to me at the school, because done with that. There are a lot of benefits. Socialization is not something that should be. So my answer to the socialization question is this. If education is the highest good, then socialization is sort of it shouldn't even factor into the equation. I don't see how socialization would tip the scales towards, okay, put your child in the institution because they'll meet people. And you can put a child in a room full of children and they won't make a single friend. In fact, they might be bullied. So the whole question of socialization is sort of bogus because it doesn't guarantee anything. So for two reasons. One, if we're talking about education, which is what school is supposed to be about, then socialization is not the highest value, and so we shouldn't be debating it at all because we're debating the value of education, right? And then secondly, the idea that children get socialized in school is a misnomer because it can go any which way, and so it can be both good or bad. So therefore, you can't even allow it into the conversation, right? I mean, it just doesn't figure in. Okay, structure. This is a big one for parents because we grew up with structure. How do I know that? Because when the bell rings, you feel like you have to change class. We've all been trained like Pavlovian dogs to answer to a bell. And the school bell is like that's the thing, right? Everybody, we all know the school bell. When the school bell rings, time to change classes. You start salivating if you're a dog that's been trained with, right? Okay. Therefore, we need structure because we've been taught that we need structure. And frankly, I think structure is good, although I know homeschool families who don't structure it. In fact, there are families who call themselves unschoolers, and they simply allow their children to learn whatever the children want, with obviously within whatever reason they find, but in the time frame that the kids want to learn it. And I asked one of the gals I met who was an unschooler, and I said, what? And she cut me off. She said, you're going to ask me about math. And I'm like, yeah, because I happen to love math and I think math is fabulous. And she said, well, the way I see it is if my son decides to go to college and he needs math, he'll learn the math then. And I'm like, well, actually, you can learn at any age. And if you keep learning as you get older, you can still learn at any age. It's only when we just shut down and stop learning that then it makes it harder to learn stuff. Okay, structure. If you need structure, and most of us do, and frankly, there's nothing wrong with that, you make a schedule. I mean, it's really not that, it's not much more complicated than that. So I'm going to give you, if you want to take notes, I'm going to give you some ideas for your daily schedule. I used to have one for the kids for chores, and a homework checklist, because I found that the checklist is, there's something very satisfying about checking things off, right? And especially for children. In fact, my oldest he didn't check things off. He took a pen and he scribbled all the way through the thing when he was done. It was almost like he didn't like doing them. Uh, so there was a meme going around on the web about the quarantine, and it has the quarantine meal schedule, and I'm going to read it to you a little bit because it's too funny and I just want to share. So quarantine meal schedule: 7 a.m. breakfast, 7:15 a.m. dessert breakfast, 8:30 panic snack with news, 9:45 chocolate, 11:30 snack while standing up staring. Sorry. 12:30 lunch with a small dessert, 2 o'clock post-nap luncheon, 4:30 trail mix, 6 o'clock dinner with weird vibes, and then 10 p.m., of course, ice cream. So, it's good to have schedules. If that's your schedule, though, I think you're going to put on those extra pounds. There was an article that said that people were basically going to be putting on 15 pounds because of the quarantine. Okay. I say exercise instead of eating, although I'll tell you, I've been tempted. You're at home all day and the kitchen's right there and the pantry's right there. Daily to do. This is a friend of mine sent this to me because she created a schedule for her kids. The top of the list under daily to do, and it says it's actually labeled Coronavirus Week. This was for the first week. I'm sure she's refined it by now, well into the second week. First, you have your chores, and the chores actually include a list. Now, she didn't put them in the form of a list, but I would put them in the form of a checklist, and there are plenty of resources. Word documents will do a checklist for you. Notes on the Mac does checklists. Like, you can actually do a checklist with little boxes and print it out for your kid to check off or cross off or whatever. Make your bed, clean your room, straighten the bathroom, put away clothes in your room, pick up any shoes, clean up the shoes downstairs, wipe down the kitchen. Like, you can make a whole list of chores. You can make daily chores and you can make a weekly chore list. All right. But if you're just doing it for like each individual child, then you just put their chores on it for the day. But every day you could say, okay, and your big chore today is you need to vacuum the living room, or your big chore is you need to dust in the den or whatever, right? Or organize the videos in alphabetical order. And by the way, organizing videos in alphabetical order or DVDs is difficult, and it takes some training, especially for a younger kid. It's an excellent exercise for young people who are getting the hang of their alphabets and learning to read, right? Okay, reading. Hers says must read one book in the week or minimum up to 40 pages per day. So you can set the limit, you put the goal on it. I used to do timed reading, but I also encouraged my children to keep a reading log because I wanted them to be able to mark their progress in their ability to read. And so just a little reading log, and it can just be a single page, and you can tape it to the wall if you want. By the way, all of these measures, you need to approach this as a temporary situation because it is temporary. It will change. It will change drastically in probably over a short period of time. So just approach it with gusto. Decide that you're going to try this for now, and then modify as you go. I had a very hard time keeping making sure that my children kept their reading logs. It just was difficult to make sure that they wrote stuff down. But I did for several weeks, and then they sort of got the hang of it, and then they started doing it on their own, and then they felt the reward of seeing that, oh, in the hour today, I read 45 pages instead of 40. Yesterday, I only read 40. I wonder why, that kind of thing. And, oh, but it's up from 30. It was only 30 when I first started 3 months ago, that kind of thing. So they can track their progress and see improvement. And that's always a very good incentive. And then you list your schoolwork. If you have online classes, you can put that on the schedule so that they know exactly, because it's hard for kids to hit a schedule if they're not used to keeping their own schedule. So here's an opportunity. Get your kids to understand scheduling. Get your kids to pay attention to the schedule. You put exercise on your checklist. Put some exercise on your checklist, even if it's to do a yoga video or something. And by the way, all of these places, all of these exercise facilities are now offering online. I will say it here. We are fundamentally changing right now the way that we will be doing business in the future. I'm not saying that when we come out of quarantine, which I think is going to be sooner rather than later, especially with the noises coming out of the White House, let's say. But even though I think we'll be back at it sooner rather than later, I think everybody is learning a little bit right now about how they can improve their efficacy with less movement into the world. Basically, they're learning how to use computers better to communicate. And you're going to see an incredible leap in online learning, which is great if you're careful about the curriculum. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. Okay. And then I love this. My friend put a special project on the list for the week. And that was to hers is to organize a drawer or cabinet, organize something in a room, help in the office because she works from home, bake cookies or make lunch for everyone. It looks like she has one thing for every day of the week. So she's planned out the whole week, and these are your special projects for each day. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great idea. So, but you can do it differently, obviously. But I do like the idea of a special project to give your children a sense of an overarching thing. I remember being that age, and I remember starting a book and thinking it was just never ending. And I remember finishing a book and going, I can't believe I read the whole book. To them, a day is an eternity, and a week is too long to contemplate, right? And so if we can break it up into bite-sized chunks for them, it's better for them. Okay. You're looking for structure. There is curricula that has structure. If your school has failed to provide you with curriculum, you can go online. The CEO of Veritas reached out to me and told me that Veritas, I think it's veritaspress.com, is offering all of their curricula for free for the next 90 days. So you have opportunity right now to go and peruse and test drive various curricula to give it a try. I do not recommend the K through 12 because K through 12, wherever you find K through 12, as listed as K through 12, if I'm saying this correctly, wherever you find the public school curriculum, it is Common Core. And I mean, I go into it in depth in my book, what's wrong with Common Core, and it is a disaster. But let me just say this. They named it Common Core. They implemented Common Core without any testing. You can fact check me on that. They implemented it without testing it. What the heck kind of leadership is that? Who implements anything without testing it first? I don't know. But for millions of school children, they just set this stuff free on them without testing it. And the results are coming in now and test scores are down because because it's illogical, it's terrible, okay? There's that. But then there's also the fact that it's called Common Core. Well, who doesn't want their child to be common? Show of hands? So, stay away from public school online. If at all possible, stay away from public school online. Classical Conversations is offering things. I'm a Classical Conversations parent. I've been Classical Conversations since my son was in 5th grade, my oldest, and he graduated last year. So, it's been a while, and I've gone through the whole program basically, and I just love what they do. It's certainly not one size fits all education because it's very parent driven. It's very, how do I put this? It's parent driven. So it is intensive for the parent, but I'll tell you something, you learn so much when you approach education that way, and you will emerge a better person for it. Now, we don't like to change. We don't want to, we want them to serve us. We don't want to change. But I'm telling you, you will thank me later if you embrace this as an opportunity to better yourself through the education of your children. Okay, Shirley Grammar is also a program that I advocate for. No, they don't pay me. My stories about Shirley Grammar in this book. For the younger kids, it is fantastic. It's fantastic for older kids too. It makes and that is a structured curriculum, right? That's what we're talking about, structure. But the other thing is, you can put on your to-do list, you can put on tour a museum. Museums have virtual tours online. I was just looking at one yesterday. There's a museum in Philadelphia that has virtual tours online, and they have videos about archaeological digs and their sort of their lecture series. There is so much that's available online. Hillsdale also offers upper level courses, great lectures, I should say. So they're for adults, right? But you've got kids who are old enough. 14 and up is old enough to listen to an adult lecture. Should be. And if your 14-year-old is not mature enough to listen to an adult lecture, maybe it's time they start. Your 12-year-old, really, depending on the level of maturity, should be able to sit through an adult lecture and get something from it. So it's just up to you to figure out where your child is and how best to serve their needs. Once you start doing that, you will understand that you are better than anything that the school can provide. Now, you'll still feel inadequate because you've been trained to feel inadequate, okay? So embrace those feelings of inadequacy and just say, God, I'm just going to do the best that I can, because your best is already better than what's happening in the institution for your particular child. Now, of course, I'm speaking in wild generalizations. Maybe you're the one exception, but I doubt it. There's an article that crossed my mind. I was going to talk about it on the radio. And by the way, if you don't listen to my radio show, please do. 10 a.m. live, weekdays. Mojo50.com is the link to listen to the radio. We have some terrestrial stations, but it's just easier to send everybody to the website. Mojo50.com. And I podcast. So if you like podcasts, go to mikeonline.com. I talk about politics and religion, current day events, and I do have a strong focus on education, because to me, education is the beginning and the end. It's all about the education, because that informs your worldview, and your education instructs how you see everything, including yourself and your abilities. And so I'm battling uphill, I know, trying to tell you that you are capable when your whole body is screaming to you, no, you're not, you can't do it, you can't do it. You can. You can do a better job than they can. Okay. 450 Ivy League courses you can take online right now for free. I'll put this up. It's at freecodecamp.org. freecodecamp.org. And he's got places listed: Brown, Harvard, Penn, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, Dartmouth, Cornell. He's got all of these 8 schools. They're in the top 15 of the U.S. News and World Report National University Rankings. Mind you, I don't believe any of that crap anymore since we found out that the schools can be bought. I'm like, well, then people are buying their degrees. In fact, there was a kid, after the whole school scandal broke, there was a kid who came and they said that they were maybe considering rescinding his degree. meaning that they can't even guarantee that after the kid got there that he did the work. So I think that higher education is sort of on its descent, and it should be, because they've held us hostage for far too long. But they are also offering, all of these universities are offering online courses. They've created over 500 courses, of which around 450 are still active. It's called Class Central. They've got a collection of them: computer science, data science, programming, humanities. I'm telling you, I'm looking into this for my engineer child, because I think he'll really like this. Oh, Introduction to Computer Science from Harvard University. Algorithms, Part 1 from Princeton. Like, he's got a whole list. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technologies from Princeton University. Wouldn't you like to know what the heck Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is? I'm just saying, there are opportunities out there. Okay. I explained why not K through 12. I'm happy to answer questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to me. You can go to samsorbo.com to email me. And let's see, I told you about the radio. Oh, samsorbo.com. Also, if you're interested in what my husband's up to, his website is kevinsorbo.net. And I'll throw a quick shout out. He's got a great movie out called Before the Wrath. It's about the book of Revelations. It's streaming on Amazon right now, and it is trending #1 in documentaries. But what is really amazing is it's holding number 9th place overall for all movies on Amazon. So I encourage you, have a movie night tonight, make some popcorn, make some caramel corn, and sit down with the kids and watch that. And then tomorrow we'll meet back here at 9 a.m. I'd love to have you here. I would love for you to bring your friends. I noticed that these videos are getting a lot of play afterwards, so that's very cool. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a story about 3 schools and the different responses to Corona, because I think it's important that we compare and contrast sort of what's available in the marketplace and how people are dealing with this. So we'll talk about that. A story about 3 schools, 3 responses, and that's tomorrow. Again, samsorbo.com. If you need a copy of my book, please do. Also, I will tell you just quickly about this one. This is called Teach from Love. I did this devotional for families a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer. I go through 2 godly characteristics every week. We need to teach our children virtue. Initially, public schools were supposed to be teaching virtue so that we would have a culture of virtue, a morally principled society that understood to obey laws, right? Now we're completely lawless. We've got people on the Hill who are trying to shove things into a stimulus bill that's supposed to be in answer to the coronavirus, and they're putting in a whole bunch of other stuff that has nothing to do with the coronavirus, and they should know better, but they don't, because our morals have slid downhill, and this is the antidote to that, is right here in this little book. Plus, it's a lot of fun. In fact, in every week, I put a place for annotations, because sometimes your kids just say stuff that you need to write down so you don't forget it. So this is also available on my website. Thank you so much for listening. Now go have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.